Today I'm going to be talking about what I think is the preliminary multiplayer meta for Modern Warfare 3. I have been absolutely grinding to gather all the data for this, so if you guys appreciate all the work I put into this, be sure to drop a sub to the channel, a like on the video, and drop a comment. We're going to jump into it here. So I have gathered all of the damage profiles. There's way more data than what's shown in game for all the assault rifles and all the SMGs. Those are fully live on TGD right now, and I've gathered all 7,000 unique attachment stats for those weapons for the ARs and SMGs. So I've got all the data on TGD now. I've been grinding for this, like I said. So let's jump into it, and we will kind of discuss what I think is the preliminary AR meta for multiplayer. So if you watched my last video, you saw me talk about how damage profiles in Modern Warfare 3 had a different design philosophy than Modern Warfare 1, Modern Warfare 2, and really just the other Call of Duty games in general. In the past, we would have different arm values. So the arm values would be the same as legs in most cases. Sometimes arms and legs would vary. And in rare cases, we would get upper arm being the same as chest. But in Modern Warfare 3, it is very common to have your entire arm be the same as your chest damage value. So that's going to mean that it's going to be really important to have a fast chest TTK, because that's going to be a much more common time to kill that you're going to get now, because you're not really going to get those arm shots thrown in there. And even if you do, there's still chest damage. And then it's also really common in this game for the stomach value, the lower torso, to match the chest value as well. So I think it's really important, one, to have a good chest TTK, two, to have a low number of shots on the head to reduce your time to kill. So if you just need like one headshot, that's going to be really common as well. So all chest with one headshot will be very common. And then also, it's important to have basically your TTK never get worse when you hit leg shots, or it requires a bunch of leg shots to make that TTK worse. So those are going to be three things we're going to talk about a lot. And then for ARs, I think another really important thing for multiplayer is going to be just general movement speed. So, movement, sprint speed, tac sprint speed, ADS movement speed. I think those are all kind of important. And then ADS time is also really important for multiplayer. All right, so I've kind of taken all of the important data points that I think really matter a lot for multiplayer, and I've added them to this spreadsheet. Number one is just chest TTK. So TTK 1 is in this first column. Then we have the first damage range. So that's when the first damage is reduced at that range. And then we have the chest hitbox. So this is what I was talking about, where we have these three very common damage profiles in Modern Warfare 3. So the most common is probably this one right here in the middle, where arm, neck, chest, and stomach are all the same. And then it's also very common that stomach is the same as legs for some of them. And then some of them also have the standard, like sort of like the M4 profile that we've had in a lot of different games, where the entire body's the same and then you just have a headshot value. Those are the three most common, and I kind of put those on here to show you which ones are going to be the most forgiving. So you're looking for arm, stomach, and chest as the most forgiving, besides the all. Obviously, all is completely forgiving because you can never hit legs and reduce that or increase that time to kill. So I'll just kind of put that on here as a way to guide to see which ones are the most forgiving. And then I also put whether or not neck equals the headshot damage. So basically that gives you a really big headshot multiplier. You can see that M4 and TAC-56 both have the same headshot multiplier. One thing I do want to note is that the burst guns are not on here. I haven't gotten the burst timings out of the game yet, so I couldn't put those in this video. I can do burst guns in a separate video though if you want me to. But this is just going to be the automatic assault rifles. So on to the next column, number of headshots to reduce. So this is the number of headshots to reduce the time to kill in that first damage range. So this is from the shots to kill tool on TGD. So if you go to TGD and you are a premium subscriber, the STK tool over on TGD, you can get to it in the sidebar. It is a premium feature. Basically, you select your gun, select your health value, which is 150 for Modern Warfare 3, select your shot location, and then calculate, and it will show you how many shots on a certain shot location off of the one you selected will change that TTK. So this is for the BASP here. You can see that if I get one leg shot and the rest chest shots, it's going to make my TTK worse, and that makes sense because it's exactly 30 damage. So 30 damage is exactly 150 damage with 5 shots. So that's just the right amount to kill. So if you have 2 less damage on your leg, it's going to increase that time to kill. And then if you get all 4 headshots, you can actually reduce the time to kill. 3 headshots is not quite enough damage to reduce the TTK, but 4 headshots is. So that's how I get those numbers for that spreadsheet. So coming back over here, I get the stomach/leg to increase the TTK from that as well. So this will tell me how many shots, if I miss chest, will increase that time to kill, which is a pretty important statistic to know as well for consistency's sake, for how consistent the gun's going to feel. And obviously ADS time, movement speed average, I just averaged the straight up regular movement, ADS movement, sprint and tac sprint together to get just kind of a basically like movement rank for the weapon. And then TTK2, this is only for the guns that have really short TTK, so that's why it's over here on the right, and it only includes like 5 weapons. So Kastov 74U has the best TTK in the first range, but it only goes out to 8.9 meters, so I thought I would include, the second TTK as well out to 24 meters, because that's more like in comparison with the other ARs. So those are just kind of off to the side there. But pretty much on this spreadsheet, we are looking for a given row to have really green values across the board. So looking at this, Kastov 74U has the greenest TTK, but you can see only 8.9 meters. It has that arm and chest hitbox. It has this hitbox. So it's not going to be quite as forgiving. It takes 3 headshots to reduce the time to kill. You never get an increased time to kill from hitting leg shots, so that's good. I've got ADS backwards here. Let me fix that real quick. So format, swap this around to green. So it does have really good ADS time. It has pretty good movement speed, but then it has that 368 TTK in the second range. So really not going to be super viable compared to a lot of these other ARs just because it has such short damage range. But if you're playing it more like an SMG, then it will be, a pretty good option. So looking at this, the first one that really stands out to me is going to be the M13B. So we got 284 millisecond chest TTK out to 33.5 meters, which is a really long damage range. You can see that's one of the longer ones on this list. Only a couple that are longer, so the FR Avancer and Holger 556 both have a little longer damage range. M13 also has that arm, stomach, and chest forgiving hitbox. Only takes 2 headshots to reduce the time to kill. It can have an increased time to kill if you hit 4 shots on the legs, but that's going to be pretty uncommon. Like, that's a lot of shots on the legs. You will probably not have that happen very often. Has good ADS time and pretty good movement speed. So right off the bat, in my opinion, M13B is the gun to beat. I think that is just these 2 numbers alone with the forgiving hitbox make the M13 look like it's a top tier weapon to me. Next up, we have the TR-76 Geist. So this is 288 time to kill, which is really good, but you see it only has 12.7 meters before the first drop off, and it doesn't have the most forgiving damage profile. It never has a number of headshots that can reduce the time to kill, so that's really bad. It'll never, literally, if you hit every shot on the head, it has the same time to kill as chest. It also can have an increased time to kill if you hit 3 leg shots. Really bad ADS time, pretty good movement speed, and then in that second damage range, it has 360 millisecond chest TTK, so that puts it all the way down towards the bottom of the list if you consider that from 12.7 out to 33. So really not a great gun there. MTZ looks pretty nice as well. 296 chest TTK, 26.7 range, forgiving chest TTK. 2 headshots to reduce, never has an increased TTK from leg shots, really good ADS time, really good movement speed. So MTZ is also an excellent gun, right up there with the M13B. I'm just going to skip through some of these pretty quickly. So Chimera, pretty much held back by its really short first damage range, but it's not a terrible option. ISO Hemlock looks pretty good, so 300 chest TTK, 23.4 meter damage range. Then you can see over on the right, pretty much everything on the right is red. Kastov 762, similar story to the Hemlock. Good TTK, good range, but then everything on the right is bad. Holger 556 is the next one that I would consider really good. So Holger 556, 37 meter damage range and 306 millisecond time to kill. Doesn't have a super forgiving damage profile. It has this arm and chest. It only takes 1 headshot to reduce the TTK in that first damage range, which is exceptional. That makes it have a crazy fast time to kill in that first 37 meters if you get 1 single headshot. And the damage values across the body, even though it has this arm and chest damage profile, the damage values are super consistent. And if we actually go look, let's just put this on a TTK chart real fast so I can show you this. So Holger, I put this on the TTK chart at TGD. Here's the damage profile. You can just come over and look at that if you want. But if we look at the actual TTK chart on chest, you can see that it never changes. So it's 306. If I turn bullet velocity off, it's 306 out to infinity. And that's because even though it has reduced damage at those drop-offs, the TTK on chest doesn't ever actually change. It will change if you mix in some leg shots and things at longer ranges, but in the first damage range, you're only going to ever really get a better TTK from headshots, which is awesome. So the Holger is an extremely consistent weapon at all ranges, and I think it is definitely a meta choice. Just the base time to kill in this game is so important. As we start getting down to these, 320 up to 380 for the base time to kill, they start to be just much less forgiving and much less competitive, in my opinion. So there's a couple I want to highlight here. I think the MCW is pretty good. So it has one headshot to reduce that time to kill. Same with the Lachmann-556. So the Lachmann-556 and MCW are extremely similar. They're only 4 milliseconds different in theoretical time to kill to chest, but the Lachmann-556 has about 6.5 more meters of damage range. They have the same damage profile, arm and chest being the same, but then they have a lower stomach and leg damage values. They both only require one headshot to reduce that time to kill. They both have 240 millisecond ADS time. The MCW has better movement speed, better mobility than the Lachmann-556. So basically, the Lachmann-556 has more damage range. MCW has a little bit faster movement. That's basically the trade-off there. So you can decide which one you like more. I think they're both pretty good. But to be honest, the rest of these weapons I don't think are great. So let's take all the things I just said and kind of summarize it. So summarizing all that, my top 5 in order, my personal opinion: M13B number 1, Holger 556 number 2, MTZ-556 number 3, Lachmann-556, and MCW basically tied for that 4th and 5th place position. The rest of them, I don't really have them in any order down here, but those, in my opinion, are looking like the top 5. I think M13B is pretty clearly the best, just looking at the stats. Again, my personal opinion. But then the Holger is just so forgiving across all ranges that I really, really like it. I think it's a little slower though. 260 ADS time is pretty slow. Yeah, I think those are the top 5. All right, quickly before we get into the builds for these weapons, I want to show you guys the top 5 on a TTK chart so you can see how they kind of vary over range. So M13B in yellow is the fastest all the way out to that 33 meter mark. And then past that, it has a pretty severe drop off. But you can see that the MTZ-556 is pretty close there all the way out. A little bit faster bullet velocity, so the bullet gets to the target a little bit faster, and less of a harsh drop-off, so that's kind of a nice thing for the MTZ there. Holger 556 is next in the red line there, and you can see that, like I said, the TTK does not change for that on the chest all the way out to infinity, so that is a really nice thing about the Holger. And obviously, if you hit some leg shots and stuff at longer ranges, that TTK can get worse, but in that the first range, and all ranges past that on chest shots, it never actually gets any slower, which is pretty nice. MCW in orange and Lachmann-556 kind of sit on top of each other. They're both right here in blue and orange. And you can see that they're pretty similar all the way out. The MCW has a little bit longer damage range, like I said earlier, but the Lachmann-556 does have maybe a little bit better recoil and some other things going forward as well. So I think the MCW is probably a little bit better than the Lachmann-556 overall. But it's just hard to get away from the Holger and the M13 and the MTZ are all three looking really, really good. All right, so let's do some builds for these top 5 weapons. We're going to start with the MCW. Basically, when I'm building these weapons, I'm trying to maintain damage range, increase movement speed, increase ADS time. I guess increase is the wrong word. Maybe I'm trying to make ADS time better, sprint to fire time better, increase my movement speeds, keep the damage range as high as possible, and make the weapons as low recoil as possible. So those are kind of the goals when I'm building these. And then I take them into the firing range, kind of feel them out a bit to see how they actually perform with the different attachments. So the first attachment I want to highlight here is a new underbarrel. We've got this XRK Edge BW4 hand stop. It only hurts your hip fire and your tack spread, which for an AR we just basically don't care about. And it gives us huge amounts of gains to movement speed. 6.7 movement speed, 10.5 crouch movement speed, 11.5 ADS movement speed, 5% ADS time, and 5% sprint to fire time. So this is just a crazy, crazy good attachment. Another one I want to highlight is this DR6 hand stop. Basically, this one has a little bit better ADS times and a little bit better sprint to fire times when you attach it than the XRK Edge, but it is going to have a little bit worse movement speeds. It still has positives to the movement speed, obviously 4.7, 7.4, and 8, but the XRK Edge just has a little bit better movement speed. So we're going to go with that. They're both great. You can kind of decide which of those you want. And then looking at this gun, one of the barrels actually came out very good. So this this KR Midnight 13-inch barrel, 20% range, 10.5% bullet velocity. The range on the MCW is only 26.7. So if we can extend that a little bit, we'd like to kind of get it out closer to that 30-meter range where some of the other assault rifles are. So this 20% is going to be a huge boost to that. All it does is 5% sprint to fire time. It actually helps ADS time and barely hurts your recoil. So this KR Midnight barrel is going to be awesome for us. So we're going to put that on there. And then most of these guns I like to have optics on. I'm just an optic guy. Like if you've ever watched my videos over the years, I just like to have optics. I like to have a clear view of the target. The Mark III reflector, I'll show you guys this in the firing range when I go take it in there. but the Mark III reflector is just a perfect sight picture. It's super, super clear. So we really like that. And then I felt like this gun just kind of needed a little bit of recoil help just to keep it as beamy as I wanted it to be for an AR. So I put on the RB Talon X3 grip. This just helps with recoil. And then the last up is just, you're going to see this on every gun I build, the Shadow Strike Suppressor. It has no cons. All it does is keep you off the minimap and keep your weapon quiet as a suppressor. So it doesn't hurt you in any way. All it does is give you that positive of keeping off the minimap. So let's take this into the firing range. You're going to see it's very beamy, very good movement speed. All right, I'm in the firing range with that MCW that I just showed you guys. Very quick ADS time, perfect sight picture. Like, look how clear this optic is. It has no rim around the top. It's just perfectly clear. Really good ADS movement speed. And then it's also, let me turn on plates just so you guys can see a little longer. It's very, very accurate. Just no visual recoil and very, very little actual recoil. So this is just a great all-rounder. I mean, this is probably one of the most accurate of the group, of the top 5. It just feels fantastic. All right, onto the Lachmann-556. We're going to do the Shadow Strike Suppressor again. Again, that's going to be pretty much every gun I build is going to have that. I just like staying off the minimap. Mark III reflector optic, just the cleanest optic that there is. Something a little different here. We're not going to actually use the XRK edge. We're going to go all the way down to the, I've gone past it. Yeah, the FTAC SP10 angled grip. So this does minus 12% horizontal, minus 5% gun kick, plus 4% vertical. When I was trying this in the firing range, it just had some weird horizontal wobble stuff going on, and it just felt so much better with this grip. So we're going to put that on there for the minus 12% horizontal. For stock, since we can't get that normal underbarrel, the XRK Edge underbarrel that we've been using, we're going to actually put on the Lachmann S9 factory. This is going to give us much better ADS time and just movement speed across the board. And then last up, just a little attachment to help with ADS time a little bit. Has no downsides. This is the Holger PEQ box. This is going to give us 4% better ADS time and really just kind of round out the gun nicely. It's going to be in a pretty good spot for multiplayer. All right, I got the Lachmann-556 with that build in the firing range, and now you can see this is pretty low, idle sway, very low actual recoil. Just a very beamy weapon. Let me put it on 3 plates so you guys can see a little better. If the vertical recoil is too much for you, I think this is more of a mouse and keyboard versus controller thing. You can swap that grip for one of the other grips that helps with vertical instead of hurting with vertical. I can definitely feel the extra vertical with this grip, but to me, it's worth it for that horizontal help. Onto the MTZ-556. Like I said, Shadow Strike Suppressor and Mark III Reflector are going to be on pretty much every build that I have on here. We're going to start with the stock here. So we're going to do the EXF Close Quarters Assault stock. So this is a 4% penalty to ADS time, but a 14% reduction in horizontal and vertical recoil and 10% in gun kick. So this just makes your gun way more accurate. And I felt like this needed it when I was using it in the firing range. Just one attachment to help with that recoil seemed to really balance it out a lot. Underbarrel, we're going to swap back to the XRK Edge. PW4, hand stop. This thing, again, crazy for movement speed and mobility. Just, you can see all those huge benefits there. And then for the rear grip, we are going to do the Bruin TR24 Assault Grip. Again, this is gun kick and recoil. Just helps this thing be super, super beamy. Let's go in the firing range and check this thing out. All right, in the firing range now, you can see it has really good ADS time, really good ADS movement speed. That underbarrel is just so good for movement speed and ADS movement speed. And we got good ADS time. Just take this in here and you can see that it's very, very accurate. No problem, just absolutely frying these targets all the way out. This last guy is at about 55, 60 meters, and this has no problem pretty much just hitting every shot at that range. So it's pretty good gun for sure. All right, for the Holger 556, before I jump into this, I just want to say again that I put so much time and effort into getting these stats out of the game and onto the website so you guys can look at TTK charts and do comparisons. And if you wouldn't mind, I would always appreciate a subscription to the channel, a like on the video, and a comment on the video. But let's get back to it. I think the Holger 556 is one of the absolute best ARs in the game right now. It's number 2 on my list. So we've got the Shadow Strike Suppressor and the Mark III Reflector. For stock, we're going to use the RB Adel Assault Stock. Again, 14% reduction to vertical and horizontal recoil, plus 4.4% ADS time. So it makes it a little slower, but it helps with recoil so much that it's just worth it. Underbarrel, that same XRK Edge. BW hand stop. This thing is so good for movement speed and has basically no negatives. And then I felt like this still had maybe a little too much recoil, and it has such long damage range by default, 37 meters, that we can afford to reduce that a little bit. So if we use the 556 NATO low grain rounds, we get a little bit more recoil help and a minus 15% penalty to damage range. So this turns it into just a really nice all-rounder for multiplayer. Let's jump into the firing range. You guys are going to see how accurate this thing is. All right, I've got the Holger in the firing range here. Really good ADS time. Pretty good ADS movement speed. Not quite as good as some of the others. But this thing hits like a truck and just has very, very little recoil. It shoots pretty slow and has basically no visual recoil compared to what we just came from in Modern Warfare 2, which just feels so nice, because it's just not fun to not be able to see your target while you're trying to shoot it. And they did a pretty good job of kind of fixing that with Modern Warfare 3. So yeah, I think this is, in my opinion, the second best AR in the game right now. Last up here, we have the M13B. I said this was my top pick. I think I'd basically put it tied with the Holger. I think they're both excellent. I don't want to say one's really a lot better than the other. So Shadow Strike Suppressor, Mark III Reflector, both excellent. And then we are going to actually do something a little weird here. When I was using this in the firing range, it felt like every build just, I don't know, I just kept missing shots no matter what build I had until I put some aiming stability attachments on there. So we're actually going to put the 1 milliwatt Artemis laser on here. I don't have the aiming stability attachments or the aiming stability stats yet on TGD because they are not in the in-game advanced stats, but I will get those at some point. Just don't have them quite yet. So that's going to help with our aiming stability there, even though it doesn't say it does anything on TGD. We're going to still use the XRK Edge BW hand stop just for that movement speed, that mobility. And then we're going to put the D37 grip on here for gun kick, horizontal, and vertical recoil control. This turns this into a pretty accurate weapon. It's so much better than all the other builds I tried. I don't know why, but the aiming stability just felt weird on this for some reason. So I really had to help it out with that laser and just kind of balance it out with recoil and aiming stability. All right, in game here, I've got that M13. You can see really good ADS time. One of the better ADS movement speeds of the bunch for sure. And then accuracy-wise, it just feels very, very accurate with this build. I'm not sure what it was, but it just felt a little off to me without help in the aiming stability some. And it has one of the most predictable recoil patterns of the group. It just kind of goes up and then a little bit to the left. Like, that's just a very consistent, predictable recoil pattern. Some of the other ones have a bit of like a zigzag going up, which can make it kind of hard to control. But overall, M13B is just an excellent S-tier weapon in Modern Warfare 3 multiplayer. Alright guys, that's it for the video. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to drop a sub to the channel, like the video, drop a comment. Again, all the stats are on TGD for Modern Warfare 3 for the ARs and SMGs. I'm hoping to have all the stats for all the weapons within about a week. I'll have recoil plots and everything up for premium subscribers here pretty soon. Yeah, hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you in the next one.